Hi everyone, my name is Miho and I'm with Eclipse Rising. Thank you so much for coming today. So Eclipse Rising has been holding annually film series to bring to you diverse voices from Japan's communities to promote solidarity with the social justice struggles in the United States. And today we're very happy to co-sponsor this film showing with No Nukes Action. We're also very honored to have Ohlone community leader Corina Gold, who kindly agreed to give us permission on behalf of her people to hold this event here on Ohlone territory and open up the program with her blessings. So I'd like to start with that. And you'll see later in the film that being connected to one's roots has very profound contribution to one's sense of well-being in the community. And in that sense, it might be an essential aspect of being genuinely liberated. And it's a really sacred connection, and her presence here today enables all of us to participate in its preservation. So thank you so much from all of us, Corina.
My name is Corina, and I'm Chochenyo Ohlone, and I welcome you here, and I thank you for allowing me to be here and talk on behalf of my ancestors. And it's a great honor to be working around this particular issue, because for the last 20 years, it's been actually longer for the American Indian movement, have worked with Japanese people around the around nuclear disarmament. And we have good friends that are actually coming here in the next few weeks to actually do a walk to the UN on nuclear proliferation. And we've always worked with this particular sect of Buddhist monks and nuns, the Nippon Mahoji sect that walks. And so it's a great honor that they'll be here, and they walk with us in our Shell Mound Peace Walks to our ancestral burial sites around the Bay Area during 2005 and 2008. So I just want to welcome folks here and say thank you, and just start off with just an offering of a small prayer, just to bring our ancestors in. I ask grandfathers and grandmothers to take care of us and watch over us, and I thank you for this great work that we are about to take part in. I ask that you open our hearts and our minds and our spirits, and ask that you help us as human beings to come together to create peace and to create a healing for this earth. I ask that you help us to do the work that we're supposed to do on behalf of our ancestors, to bring our ancestors in here to be happy and joyful with us tonight, to help us to go home safely to our families, and to continue to do the work that you want us to do. Thank you.
Jesus-san.
Thank you for coming again. Today we are showing the Iitate Village documentary here. I really want to, people understand that their pain. We really cannot forget their suffering, and their suffering is still continuing. But the Abe government is really trying to cover on top of that. And even the pretend that this accident, this tragedy is over. Mm-hmm. Accident is contained. Mm-hmm. Inviting to Olympic, and also spreading the safety campaign, which they inviting people to come back the area, which is not safe yet. Mm. They said the decontamination is over, you can come back, and after come back 1 year later, they gonna cut the compensation to them. We really have to understand this, this is the 4th year after accident happened. Fukushima people is still suffering. And those people believed that nuclear power plants are safe. And after this happened, and then people understood that the nuclear power plant, oh no, this is not coexisting with a human being. Even after many people found out that Japanese government is pushing away that, and then now pushing so hard for restart next power plant, and then pushing forward to export power plant. This seems like government never learned from Fukushima accident because they don't want to learn. They want to continue to keep the nuclear power plant because Japan want to have the potential of nuclear weapons, because nuclear power plant produce the plutonium, which is good for nuclear weapon, so that the Japanese government never want to change this course. Since the nuclear power plant was got from America, because America wanted get the money back after they put so much money to create atomic bombs. After war was over, America wanted to cash it out, so that they sent this nuclear, this technology to Japan, and Japan foolishly bought it. After that, 54 nuclear plants are there, and -4 because and -6 because Fukushima melted down, 3 melted down. And it's good news is like 4 or 5 nuclear power plants now. People deciding there as decommissioning. That's great, but still more than 40 nuclear plants are there. So what we have to do is really we have to stand up, and then we have to our voice out that nuclear power plant is not for people, is not for the this global earth. Those are totally poison, because from the beginning of the mining the uranium and operating the nuclear power plant, the old laborers people, those are suffering by contamination, exposure for radiation, and what happened the waste field. We don't know what to do. Nuclear power plants, no. We have to nuclear weapons, and then this. Please see the suffering of the Fukushima accident victims.
But I just want to give a quick background and context of the film and the filmmaker. Iitate Village is actually a 2-film set, and we're going to be watching part 2 of the second film. So it covers some of the return, or the efforts to return of the villagers. Iitate Village is made by an internationally renowned journalist, Doi Toshikuni. He is also a personal mentor of mine. He's based in Yokohama, Japan. He actually, as a journalist, covered Palestine for decades, about 3 decades, and came to realize that his mission in life is to give voice to the voiceless as they resist occupation, war, and genocide. And so he's been covering Fukushima since the disaster. And he's also well known for another documentary titled Fallujah in 2004. So characteristic of his work is a very quiet, subtle manner in which he just bears witness to what kind of is unveiled in front of his eyes. And he has a gift to really disarming the local folks with whom he has genuine relationships. So you'll see very intimate moments that are very minimally edited or produced. And it's also, it also contains some expert commentary that refer to what's going on now as the work of the nuclear cartel. now aided by the new decontamination cartel. I think the key question for me as I watched this was, is this decontamination by the nuclear cartel really going to restore the lives of the villagers, or is going to promote forgetting, right? And like Chizu-san said, lead to the revival of the rest of the remaining nuclear reactors in Japan? And I think that is a really critical question. Having said this, I also want to mention many of the Zainichi Koreans are actually from very rural agricultural dependent areas of southern Korean peninsula, which is very much like the region of Fukushima. And many of the farmers there are very desperate to reclaim their means of livelihood. And unfortunately, this entails having to demonstrate to the world that their products are now safe for the consumers. I think because of this, it is even more so urgent that we press the Japanese government for full restitution and recovery of the local residents in Japan, so as to bring justice. And I hope that you'll walk away feeling, personal connection with the people and the land of their ancestors and their community. And a little bit about the program that'll follow. I'm sorry to announce that the mothers of the victims of the Sewol ferry disaster in South Korea are unable to join us. They've been going through a very aggressive schedule, and one was actually hospitalized in LA a couple days ago. So I just want to express our deep prayers for the recovery of the mothers. But we're lucky to have Sean to read us their statement after the program. And we're very fortunate to also have Steve Zeltzer of No Nukes Action and Labor Video Project, who's been to Fukushima many times, as well as pretty much everywhere else in the world, including Japan, with a long history of solidarity with the people fighting the government impunity and also the private industry interests. And we also have Fuifui Nume Tolu, who is a longtime activist and scholar from Tonga. And as you may know, Tonga has a very long history of struggling with radiation exposure and colonial relationship with the United States and private nuclear industry as well. And I believe that we have an enormous amount to learn from each other. And our hope as Eclipse Rising is that this venue also contribute to the process where we can develop collective shared analysis. So next, before the film, will be Susie Huerta, renowned Bay Area poet, reading her poem titled Fukushima. Please give her a
I just want to thank my friend Kay and Miho for inviting me to read my poem. I never imagined really an audience for my poem. It was something that I wrote sort of to just deal with what I was watching unfold. And it was maybe just a couple days into watching people grappling with the aftermath of the tsunami and dealing with that and the images that were coming across the television. And for me, that was one thing. Natural disaster, right? When Mother Earth does what she does, and there are earthquakes and the tsunami that follows, like this is a very natural part of living on this planet, and to rebuild from that is not easy, and it's something that that humbles us. But when I started watching the newsreels about what was happening in Fukushima, for me that was just I felt like I couldn't deal with. I couldn't really understand that. Because my question was, it's always a question, how does one come back from such a disaster, from such a natural disaster? But how does one rebuild from something that can create such a permanent gash in our Earth, that has repercussions that go beyond our generation, beyond 7 generations from here, right? What do we do about that? And the fact that those who are rebuilding are often the most voiceless people, and how do they come back? And so I think for me, the answer to feeling disempowered in any way is always to create. And so for me, that's writing. And the people of Fukushima have tried to come back and figure out how they're going to recreate their own lives and recreate their own communities, and that's the human spirit. And so I wrote it just sort of for myself to deal with. So actually, the title of the poem is called Aftershock. Tonight, prayers the people of Fukushima will escape the unnatural breath of radiation. 4 burning reactors and acid rains hang overhead. Together, we walk this coastline of nuclear meltdown. The living cry for having outlived tsunami explosions, and I decide I won't cry death that can, at the whim of wind and ocean currents, take over, seep slowly into expectant lungs and belly. Before the final seizure, cancer born of hyper energy and fabricated sun, I declare my right to battle. 50 plant technicians stay behind when levels spike into dangerous territory, more dangerous than centuries of plate tectonic tensions and surging waters. Like them, I focus on the fixing. I will not spend energy this night at my desk, eyes on screens, on newsreels of broken spirits, mothers to new babies, 70-year-old husbands who couldn't hold on to waterlogged, drifting wives. I take their gaping wounds like a bullet in protest, demand something better, and walk with their torment like a lover saying goodbye in this balmy California sunset. Loose steps glide on downtown potholed pavement. Returning home, I discover purple and yellow bulbs, ripe and blasting brilliantly, growing spring into dying winter skies. Thank you.
I'm listening, sitting here with all of you in this room, listening to these narratives of struggle, of loss. I'm so touched. So touched. I was thinking about one of our sayings in Tonga, and in Tonga it's called Dauhiva. Dauhiva means our sacred responsibilities. All of us in Tonga, since we were kids, we're always taught what Dauhiva means and how important it is. It's because it's relationships. That when you're a child and you're born, you have relationships to the past, the ancestors from the past, which we say actually up in the front, the ancestors from this moment, right? The ones that you walk alongside with, and also we say the ancestors of the future. And these are very sacred to us because these are our children or our mokopuna, which is the next generation. When I watched this film today, I was so touched because for us, I saw that one of the va, meaning our sacred relationality, is kai. That you live in a place, in a land, and I saw the grandparents and the parents, and it's a place that the children, the grandchildren, the mokopuna, are no longer allowed to enter. And for us, when we have this severing, when the ancestors, when we can't walk with our ancestors, and again, part of this beautiful cycle is also our relationship as a specific people is always our relationship to our great-grandmother, our beloved Moana, or the Pacific Ocean. Our Pacific Ocean to us, different from what they teach us here in the West, is also what we say is our homelands. There's not a difference between the Moana to us and also the land that we stand on. And this place, when I saw the film, the great pain, the severing, the loss, for us as human beings, where we're in a place, a land where we can no longer walk with the ancestors of the future. I was thinking about, for myself, one of the things that we always talk about, for us, for me when I go places and talk about the Pacific, is that we're people who are survivors of wars, of many wars. Current wars. Right? I think about very recently on February 7th, we were very blessed to be part of a contingent of Pacific Islanders who walked alongside Native Americans at the major climate change march here in Oakland. Right? One of our leaders who walked up in the front was a grandmother in her 50s from the Marshall Islands. Right? The Marshall Islands is part of the Bikini Atolls. when we think of the word bikini, right, especially here in the West, we're always thinking of this particular kind of feminized sexual body, right? What we don't know that the bikini atolls, the truth and the reality of that is that the U.S. nuclear tested for decades in these islands, and that the islands is nothing like what the bikini means. It's nothing attractive, it's nothing beautiful. In fact, so many of these people have lost ancestors from the past and the present, and the future looks very, very bleak and very dark. And so Farina tells the story of how she came to the United States. She talks the story of that everyone in her family, Rena from the Marshall Islands, who was one of our leaders, she spoke that in her family, her grandmother had died of breast cancer. Her multiple cousins had died of breast cancer, right? And then her mother, she talked about, died of different diseases. She said that in the Marshall Islands, nobody knew how to categorize them. Children were born without fingers, children were born without noses, eyes. This was becoming a norm. And to talk about it, just to further give you just a little bit of history, what happens is that there's a route in the United States, and this had to do with struggles with many activists in the Pacific, saying to the US, you're responsible for this. You have to give these people, these communities, a way out. So what's happened in contemporary times is that there's a big migration of a lot of folks from the Bikini Atolls or the Marshall Islands into Hawaii, right? And that's caused a lot of inner fighting between Native Hawaiians and folks from the Bikini Atolls. Why? Because of the very limited, as you all know too, Hawaii is a land under occupation, right, by the US at this time. A land of militarization, where many Hawaiians themselves would say, look at our highest rate, one of the highest rates of diabetes, highest rates of cancer here in the United States. And nobody knows who we are. When you think of the Pacific, everyone thinks that the Pacific is this beautiful place with just placid oceans, beautiful place. Why would people leave it? And I always say, people ask me this all the time, why did you leave your beautiful home? And I always say the reality is, when we think about the lives, especially of someone like Rena, and my own experiences from a different island called Tonga, is because these realities, these beautiful homes actually don't exist anymore for us as Pacific Islanders. And it is because one of the big banners, and in closing, I think about one of the big banners that we carried when we marched in the climate change marches. We are not drowning, we are fighting for our mokopuna. And that's a theme that I feel with every single one of you brothers and sisters in this room. We're not drowning. They may try, they may put us underwater, they may put us under radiation, but every single one of you here walk with your ancestors, and we're not drowning, we're fighting. And thank you so much for your struggle, and thank you so much for your great work.